Want to learn about the most exciting way to catch bass in the world? Well, it's called topwater fishing, and we're going to talk about that. Welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Fish Talk Show, where I've got 5 minutes to discuss all things fishing. Now, this show actually appears every single Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, so click subscribe to stay tuned. All right, guys, I just loaded 5 minutes on this timer here, and you know what that means. Boop. It is time to get real, my friends.
Yay!
Today we're talking about topwater fishing. This is the most exciting way to catch bass, in my opinion, and I'm assuming most of you would agree. Now, there are a lot of different topwaters across the market today, and really what I'm going to focus in on is trying to cover exactly kind of what they are and a little bit about how you fish them. Because we only have 5 minutes and there's so many different topwaters out there, I'm going to have to breeze through pretty quick. What I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with the ones that I throw at the very beginning of the year and then end with the ones that maybe I target more in the fall time frame. So the first one that I'm going to throw, like as it's spring, the water temperature's in the 50s up to the 60s, and some topwaters in a lot of cases will not work yet. The first one that I think is going to work is actually the buzzbait. Why do they call it a buzzbait? Well, because it buzzes. It's kind of annoying. It's loud. It's obnoxious. But the bass hate it. And so what's cool about this is it's like a spinnerbait in a lot of ways, but except instead of reeling it subsurface, you reel it as fast as you can to get it to where it's buzzing across the top of the surface. Now, where am I going to throw this? I'm going to throw it back in pockets around targets. I'm going to throw it down transition banks. I'm going to throw it around docks. I'm going to throw it around trees, so on and so forth. This is really not something that I fish like on a point or something like that. It's more so down transition banks and down in pockets. Bass will absolutely slurp this thing up. I've caught a lot of big bass on a buzzbait. Something about it just draws that big bass to come up and eat. That's the thing. Same thing with a lot of topwaters though, is they are big fish baits. You know, you don't catch a ton of little dinky fish on them. A lot of times you'll get some really good solid fish on topwater baits. That leads me into my next one, and that is the popper. The popper is really the next one that I'm going to throw in the spring. A lot of times this really shines post-spawn immediately after the bass get off the beds and they're protecting the fry being their little babies. This little popper, you can present it slowly or fast right above them, and a lot of times that will draw aggressive strikes because they're trying to protect their little babies. If I don't catch a fish on a popper, or if I'm getting follows and stuff like that, then I'll switch to like a wacky rig Senko, and that'll work very well as well. Very similar to a popper, there's also a prop bait. This is a baby torpedo, and then we've got a bigger one, and then we've got this like Smithwick Devil's Horse, I believe it's called. People in Florida love this thing. If you live in Florida, buy one of these. I hear they're really good. Sure. But I like this little torpedo, and these things work really well for smallmouth bass, actually, especially in clearer water. It's a little bit more subtle than a popper, but it's presented in a very similar way. You kind of just pull it, you twitch it, and then that prop will just kind of brr, so on and so forth, right? But that is also another one that can work, you know, throughout the spring and summer, and similar to a popper, it's just a little bit different action. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is actually probably making the most noise within the industry for the last few years, and that is the Whopper Plopper. This can be pulled and twitched like the other two, or it can be reeled like a buzzbait. It's very much a one-size-fits-all approach. It's a cool topwater that is pretty simple, but it draws really big bass to the surface. I know people love this thing. I'm probably going to throw this a little bit more this year. I'll probably buy a few more as well. They're kind of expensive, but the reason they're expensive is because they're revolutionary and they catch a lot of fish. Fish it all the way through the spring, summer, fall. It tends to be, like I said, kind of a one-size-fits-all lure. Now, this is really my summer lure. This is my favorite one for open water, and that is the spook. I happen to like the super spook solely because when you have that bigger bait, you can really cast it a mile and you can just work it real fast. And I feel like small fish, big fish, they all hit it, and it works really well. Especially when you're working it fast. I mean, they're only catching a glimpse of it, so it's not like if you're throwing a bait this big, you'll probably miss a lot more fish. When you're throwing a big bait, they're going to be able to get a hold of it a little bit better. I like to throw all these on braid. Some people throw it on monofilament. I think the industry's kind of gotten away from that. Braid works really well. It also floats. It's low stretch, so on and so forth. Now, let's talk about really heavy braid. Let's talk about frogs. This is the most fun bait to fish ever. This is where you got the vegetation, no matter where you're at on the lake. If there's grass and there's mats, you throw a frog over top of it, 50, 65 pound braided line, and you get some explosions, and they will just absolutely terrorize these baits, and you will set the hook and you'll catch a giant and you will just love it. I'm telling you, you gotta throw frogs. If you don't throw frogs, they are so fun, but you gotta make sure that you have braid. You gotta make sure that you have heavy gear, because if you don't, well, you're gonna miss those fish, unfortunately. Okay, last bait that I want to talk about, and I have a feeling this little alarm is gonna go off here shortly, but this is a, what do you call these things? This is one of those, what am I thinking? Oh, wake bait. Yeah, it's a wake bait. Basically, what that implies is it's like a crankbait, except it's just wiggling across the top of the surface. Shut up. I don't throw this a lot, but I know in the fall it can probably work pretty well. I know some people like them. I don't throw it a lot, but I wanted to show you guys. It's another option. Probably throw it around docks, similar to a buzz bait, but I would probably try this one in the fall a little bit more. Like I said, I don't throw it, so who am I to talk about it? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed all these different topwaters. Let me know if you have specific questions on any of them or on all of them or whatever. I know I went through it very fast. I feel like I was talking a million miles an hour, but here's the thing. Look how many options you have. I'm trying to make sure that this is a one-stop shop for your topwater fishing experience. Again, have yourself a fantastic day. And oh wait, if you have a suggestion for next video, make sure to comment it below. If I choose it, I will feature you at the beginning of that video. And last but not least, like I said, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and we will catch you next time.